How's it going, guys? It's Burgas here and welcome to another Call of Dragons video. The more Call of Dragons change, the less I believe there is such a thing as universal correct investment. That sounds strange because every new season, every tier list, every content creator are trying to answer exactly the same question. What are the best builds? And I've been thinking about that question a lot recently because I realize it's probably responsible for more wasted resources than anything else in this game. Not because it's bad decision, but because it quietly assumes there is only one correct answer. For a long time, I assumed every investment could simply be ranked from best to worst. A hero A was stronger from the hero B, the hero A was a better investment. Simple. Then I started watching battle reports that was completely broke that logic. And I'm going to share with you my experience with that. Back in the days, using Liliya Velyn was something that was doing crazy amount of damage. A lot of people remember those days, especially the old G players. The new one right now is switching seasons and they get tons of heroes immediately. But for the people like us, back in the days, we just get every season just 2 heroes. So what I'm trying to say is Liliya and Velyn was the top of the food chain. There was nothing that it can actually beat it. At one point, and that was looking the best investment. If you ask anybody back in the days, yo, should I actually go for this or that hero? Obviously, Liliya was more strong from Velyn, so if you have to choose between Liliya and Velyn, you're going to go with Liliya. But the point is, that was very, very solid Legion. Till lately, when this Legion is no longer used, just because it's way too aggressive, and the game switched to crazy counterattack for the infantry in Call of Dragons, and this Legion just are not able to survive. In same time, infantry get boosted with Ironclad. There is just so many defense mechanics with the infantry that you're not doing damage, but in the same time you get crazy counterattack damage. So this is one of the things that actually make me, huge impression back in days. And that was my experience when the same hero pairing perform very differently in 2 different types of fight. And a lot of new players are going to experience that because season 1, yeah, no problem. Season 2, yeah, you're still going to get Bertrand there, you're going to get Goresh. Also, Goresh and Skogo is actually doing pretty nice counterattack. But from Season of Starfire and when you hit Season of Starfire, you're going to notice that just this Legion in the different battles are performing completely different. And this realization was surprisingly simple. The meta isn't trying to answer every question, it answers one specific question. What performs best under those conditions? That's a completely different question from what should I invest in. Those sound almost identical, but they're not. And I'm going to give you an example where I make some change just to get some better results. And one of those changes is actually in my pet. It was actually a simple pet skill that I changed. Now, for the people who was watching my previous videos, they know I have Venom Lizard. And in this Venom Lizard, I was having like 2-3 star useless skill just because there was like 3 star. I get the pet like this. But lately I remove and I put this advanced counter strike. Now here is the thing. With this spell, when I jump with my cavalry or with my infantry, I'm doing tons of damage. And I'm going to show you some results of that. And it's even with different legions. Now here is like 93k Kuma with this is Goresh with Kuma. If we go over the battle summary, you're going to see that the war pet actually did like 174. Back in the days, this pet didn't do that much damage. Now the other example I can actually give you was with, for example, Nea with Kuma. If we open the battle, you're going to see that Even the heroes did less damage from the warped. I mean, warped did 123k damage. Obviously, the counter attack is also very solid. So you see, just by switching one small, one how to say it, one skill of my pet, I double the damage this pet is producing. And what I'm trying to say is this happen under specific conditions. That's what I get actually happen under specific condition. And the thing of one good build is to get the same results or close to same results by doing the same thing over and over and over again. To not have some crazy difference in the results when you're doing that. Now, one false belief I had to get rid of was thinking that context was just a small detail. I used to believe under my context only matter when two investments were very close in strength. Now I think it's usually the biggest factor. And I enter in this type of conversation many times where, for example, same two players are looking for same legion, are looking for completely different investments. One of the players I can actually give me as an example. At one point, I really want to replace Venom Lizard with Mossrock Ouroch, because Mossrock Ouroch, for me personally, especially for infantry, is very solid. Now, the other people may actually want to change the artifact and, you know, get some other artifact that's going to give better additional effects or better effects at all. Some other players is going to need the thwarting, maybe some decorations, but at the end of the day, this is a completely different investments for the same legion. And if you ask like 3 players about the same legion, what they're still building there, they're going to tell you completely different things, the majority of the cases. That also changed the way I look at the tier lists. I still think the tier lists are useful. I still watch them. I mean, for the fellow content creators when they make some tier lists, but I don't treat them as shopping lists anymore. I'm going to give you an example with the hero that I actually stopped investing in just because I think at this point my account was actually, you know, already built and already fixed that problem I was having. And this is mostly for the infantry. One of the things is, first of all, it's very hard to coordinate your mages and have one infantry. The majority of the case, I'm just using one infantry. And by playing with one infantry to get the best positioning to do massive damage and at the same time distract the enemy is a little hard. So one of those investments that I actually stopped investing based on the tier list was actually Joran. I still have like 93 of this tokens, so maybe I'm going to level up one of those skills in the future, I don't know. But at this point, I stopped investing in this hero just because I already fixed this problem, the infantry problem, because I believe everybody should have infantry in their legions. It's not like, you know, something that the players should not do, because if nobody bring infantry on the battlefield, there is no front lines, there is no rally, how to say, maybe you can do only rally reinforcement, but in general you need infantry on the battlefield. So I think every mage player, marksman, cavalry should have at least one builded infantry legion. So yeah, this is the main reason I actually stopped investing in Joran, just because I already have this problem finished. One thing I noticed is that the longer someone plays Call of Dragons, the fewer times they ask what's the best build. Instead, they start asking questions like what I'm actually trying to accomplish, what kind of fights do I take the most, what role does my alliance expect me to play. Those questions almost always lead to better investments that simply copy whatever happened to be the top of the tier list. I also want to thank everyone who's already supported the channel through the membership. A lot of those ideas don't come from reading patch notice, they come from spending time testing things, comparing reports, and changing my own opinions after enough fights. That's only really possible because of the support of the community. Members also get early access to the new videos, members only content, where I dive deep into certain topics, or I just explain like the previous one for Wildleaf MFD. And for Warworth member, a chance to help shape future videos through suggestion and voting. If you do like to support the channel and be part of this journey, you can check out the membership below the video.